I wanted, hey guys, welcome back. I wanted today to do a little poetry reading of a poem I wrote, and also the essay I wrote with it. It's about something I experienced in my childhood, and it's like kind of uncomfortable, so I kind of wanted to get it over with, because I'm not like too excited about doing this, because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like kind of like a dark subject matter, and I don't like to, like, I feel like I'm healed from it. But I just wanted to get it over with, and I had planned to share this poem, so might as well just do it now. But yeah, it's called A Boy and a Gun, and it's about, as I said, like a traumatic experience I had. And I'll just read the essay first, and then I'll read the poem. So I published this on my Instagram. I actually kind of archived it, which I do a lot with my posts. It was more just for me to have it out there. I sent it to some like magazines, but no one I got a couple of responses, but like it's not like published or anything. But anyway, here's the essay. So when I was 6, I was involved in abusive incidents with another boy about the same age. He manipulated me, threatened me not to tell anyone, otherwise he'd tell my parents what I'd done. Despite the nonsensical threat and the fact that I didn't understand what he had made me do, other than I felt ashamed, I didn't tell a soul about what he'd done to me. Years later, after I finally told my family, my mother mentioned there were rumors that he had been sexually abused by his own parents, which made me question why she let me play with him in the first place. We Googled this boy, Brandon Kaur, and found out that at age 27, he had killed his mother and then shot himself in the head immediately after. A double murder-suicide. I marveled at the poetic justice of it all. When you commit a senseless act of violence, you are indubitably sealing your own fate, but also sexual abuse is the symbolic equivalent of killing your mother. You're taking the divine feminine and an act of love that created you and twisting it into the very opposite. So I started to write about the weaponization of masculinity, as well as the abuse of power. In a society where women's bodies are so heavily policed, with dress codes and abortion laws, it's a cruel joke how little boys trapped in men's bodies are allowed to run amok, shooting up schools and even starting wars. In light of recent tragic events, I feel compelled more than ever to share this story. It's partly thanks to my abuser that I developed an irrational fear of speaking up. Ever since that little boy threatened me not to tell, I've been afraid something bad will happen to me if I admit I'm struggling. Now I need to show myself that I am no longer afraid and no longer ashamed by sharing what I've been through. All this time I've been gathering my thoughts, and now I finally feel ready to speak. But not only because I was silenced, but because I was thinking about what I even wanted to say. I started writing this poem 3 years ago, and it's taken me this long to put all the pieces together. If only politicians weighed their decisions that long before they waged wars, or before a little boy pulled the trigger. And I kind of use words in this. It's kind of wordplay. Like I kind of say his name, you know how it's like kind of saying the name of your attacker. So I kind of like use wordplay to kind of say his name without saying it. And then like his name is Brandon Kaur, so I say like plays off of Brandon and Kaur, just so you are aware that that's what I was trying to do. I'm not super like in love with this poem. You know, I feel like it's not I feel like there's more I could have put in it, but I ultimately just wanted to finish it and get the story out. And I think the essay kind of attached and the timing is kind of relevant. It's all kind of like contextual. So yeah, here's the poem, A Boy and a Gun. Trigger warning. This is the story of a boy and a gun. As police tape cordons off the well-maintained home, let the evidence show this little boy had a gun. First, he killed his mom, but I was his first victim. One day he pulled it out on me, a loaded weapon. One blow to the head was all it took. Brain done. And therein I found the perfect analogy for what he'd done to me. A double murder suicide. That's what you do when you harm another life. A double murder suicide. That's what happens when you harm another life. How does a child get to decide who lives or dies? He kills with easy confidence. No need to think twice. Playing God with one switch of the trigger. He was just a little boy. His body count was high. Any last words? Goodbye forever, childhood. And that was all she wrote. And then I included some news articles. But yeah, that's a poem. I just wanted to kind of read it and share it because, as I said, it's, you know, something I worked on for a while, for years, to kind of like figure out how to kind of include the symbolism and like put my thoughts together in a cohesive way. And I think the essay also was like super important because it gives the context and the social relevance, and I definitely do feel that way. But yeah, it was really healing to release this. I don't share in the Instagram post because I didn't want to get too personal and too like graphic, because I think that's not the point of it. But the worst part of that, I think, was like I was going through my parents' like separation at the time, after that, and as a child, I'm a person who just ends up like, instead of taking out my anger on other people, usually I like internalize it and really punish myself. You know, I just through like thinking like, you know, bad thoughts and like developing bad habits, like picking my skin, or something that, you know, I've dealt with, and I'm gonna make a video about that too, probably how to like deal with that. Lots of like mental health stuff I feel like I can share. But yeah, I basically took out my like frustration and like anger about the like situation with my family, and I read this article in Girls Life about STDs, and I thought, as a result of reading that, I thought that I had one. Like a few years after that, I hadn't thought of it. I like blocked off the like thought, but it still kind of like bothered me, and I just like told myself not to think of it. I used to just like always push away thoughts and be like, don't think about it, you know, and I was really good at that. But basically that manifested into like reading that article, and I ended up just thinking I had an STD, and I like convinced myself that I was gonna die. And I every day that just like didn't tell anyone about what had happened, but I just like every day thought like, oh, you have like you can't be happy. I was about 10 years old, and I was like, you have an STD, you can't be happy, like you're gonna die, like everyone's gonna like find out, like your doctor's gonna find out, and your mom, and you're gonna be so ashamed and think you're so like dirty, and like you know, just be so ashamed of you. I just like told myself all this stuff. It didn't even make any sense, but it's like every day I would think this, and I was so unhappy for a lot of my childhood, like for at least a good couple of years, maybe at least a year, but probably longer. Childhood's like a weird time thing, but there was just a long time in my life as a child when I was going through all that, where I really, I just like really told myself like, you can't be happy. And I was, even if something good happened to me, I'd be like, yeah, but you have like an STD, and like it would just made no sense. It was like crazy. Children, you know, when you have something traumatic, you don't like process it, and I'm sure, you know, all that stuff can manifest in really bad ways. But that's like the worst thing about it, is just that I punished myself so long for it. And eventually, when I was like older, I kind of realized, like in my 20s or whatever, I was like, oh, I couldn't have like had an STD, like when I thought about it again. And I finally told my family and stuff. And yeah, I don't think you should let your kids play with like children who have suspicious home lives, definitely. So that's a failure on the part of my family. But yeah, I mean, I guess it was pretty traumatic, and it's just sad how many women I know who've been through like sexual abuse, and it's like crazy how many, it's like it shouldn't be like that at all, and it's never, you know, your fault. And it took me a long time to like process that, and this poem was just part of like healing that, and like, you know, making that statement and really believing it for myself and healing that story. And yeah, just realizing that like all the shame I had was just like not mine to have. And I think shame is just like the worst thing that you need to just like realize all the reasons why you feel ashamed of yourself, and those are things you really need to like disprove to yourself, because you shouldn't be ashamed to be yourself. Like, you're perfect, and you're the way that, you know, you were meant to be made, and you're exactly the way you should be, and you have a purpose on this earth, and we all do. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, and yeah, I hope you liked it, and I'll see you later. Right.